Yeah. And they're choking on their rage. Everybody's choking on their rage.
Everybody's choking now.
Mm-hmm. It's over. Pow. Longest
Classic
recap
MMO.
in history? You think so? All right, let's do a recap of the longest world championship game of all time in number of moves. Possibly a number of hours, but I doubt it.
All right.
Okay. They played this fake Catalan. And then Spencer was mildly surprised when Black played c5. If White wants to play the regular Catalan, he could play c4. That's just a Catalan. But he's trying to make it so there's not a lot of prep. He played c5 pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So I think both players knew this position because Magnus instantly played c4 without thought. And after this, he instantly played queen c2. So this is just Magnus's pregame preparation, which doesn't give White any advantage, but gives him a little time advantage, which didn't help.
All right.
Anyway, Jan played very well. He defended his bishop. Magnus instantly played here, sacrificing a pawn. White gets a lot of compensation because White gets a big lead in development. If you take, there's knight takes attacking the bishop. The bishop moves away. We develop this bishop. And White has good compensation for a pawn. And not only that, but it's Magnus's prep because he's moving instantly. So if White sacks a pawn and he's analyzed it before the game and you haven't, he'll get a bigger and bigger time advantage. So he played the excellent knight c6, which, surprising to me, Spencer was less surprised, I think. Magnus seemed to think forever here. I thought knight c6 was a normal kind of move, but maybe his team was concentrating on the pawn sack, thinking if he doesn't take the pawn, I'll just be better. And the engine says, no, it's equal. No. So he played knight takes, b5. Every move Jan plays, the engine says is great. Knight e5, knight b4 attacking the queen. The queen doesn't really want to go anywhere. On the d file, it gets harassed by the rook. On b1, it gets harassed by the bishop going to e4. So he went to b2, engine recommended. And Black is very comfortable here. Okay, and they got equal position. And in this position, rook d8 was excellent because he wants to play knight d4. And here, you could take either way, but it seemed like Jan was ambitious. This seems pretty equal, and this seems like both sides have some chances because the queens are still on the board. Rook c1, knight d4, trading everything, always trade. And the engine says this is equal. Everything's equal. All right, and these moves are all reasonable. It was interesting if he played rook a c8, but he waited to play that. It's better to play rook a c8 with a king here, so when you take the two rooks, it's not check. The king is better here, defending more squares. And our dog's outside. Hey, Kazoo.
Hey, yeah.
Now, Magnus thought forever on rook d2. What's that, sweetie?
Did he look in the window?
No, he doesn't know we're here. Rook d2, defending this pawn and defending the queen. So now if the knight moves away, our queen's defended and our pawn's defended, and we can double up this way or double up this way. And Magnus thought incredibly long time about that move. Okay, rook c8. He doesn't have to play rook c8, but that was exciting. So a line that we thought was, going to be reasonable was to play b4 at some point, and that's probably why he played rook d2. So his queen and pawn were defended more when all these tactics happen. And Black doesn't have to play rook a c8, but it's fine. And then he played queen d5 attacking this pawn. And these pawns are pretty far advanced if we win the pawns, and the bishop controls the queening square. So b4, a4 is a very important move. You want this pawn to sit here weak. It would be like a very terrible positional mistake to trade pawns. Then that pawn's defended forever, and then this pawn can be attacked. Here, this pawn's hard to defend. And when you lose that pawn, Black is trying to win the game. So Magnus is trying to trade all four of these pawns. Then he has two rooks for a queen. Everything's on the same side. Black has an isolated double pawns, so White has good winning chances. And Jan wants to take this pawn, then Black has good winning chances. So e3 after long thought. Bishop b2 is a move that he played later, but he decided to play this now, which is fine. H4 is a very good move, giving the king some more lift. H5 is good. King H2. And in this position, Jan played a surprising move. He played bishop b2. Engine doesn't like that. The engine wants to play queen b3, attacking the pawn. And I think it was saying this, and somehow it was a draw because everybody's taking everything. But bishop b2 was not as good because he played rook c5. Now, if you decide to defend your pawn by playing queen d7, I said if. Then we play rook c2, double exclam, a move I would never think of, with the idea of if bishop takes a3 and I play rook a2, your bishop is attacked and trapped, and my rook is defending this rook. So Jan didn't do that. Jan played queen d6. The reason he played queen d6 is in the same variation. Now the queen's on d6, so we could take this. So he prevented white from playing that strong line. The same deviled egg. Okay, so he played rook d1. The engine says boo, boo. Although maybe it was saying boo orange, I don't know. Here the engine wanted to play one of the rooks to c2, right?
Yeah, I thought it was still rook c2, right?
Yeah, I turned off the engine.
But
so
maybe it was bishop a3.
Turn it back on so I can see the... You thought it was this rook?
Yeah,
No, it was this rook. Yeah. And then after takes, knight f4. Right.
Right, knight f4. I couldn't think of that.
There was an argument as to whether this was winning or not. But
right, queen
it
f8
actually doesn't
such.
matter if it's winning. White has great winning chances.
Yeah.
Maybe black can draw. Maybe not. But this pawn's attacked, this queen's attacked, and here come my rooks on the 7th. And if this position occurred, would Jan play queen f8?
I mean, hard to believe.
Yeah, I mean, super GMs don't play like that. They don't play passive moves like that. And queen f8 might lose anyway.
Right.
But like if you're a normal person, you take this, and then, then rook here, and knight takes this, and knight takes this. And these pawns aren't queening because they're blocked. Yeah, once I go here, your king's not looking good. So Magnus would have had excellent winning chances if he had played rook cc2, but he played rook d1, and now he's worse. But the players were in time trouble. Magnus was in time trouble 3 times this game.
Yeah.
Bishop takes a3. Rook takes b5. Now Jan played a very nice move. If he moves his queen to the c file with the intention of playing queen c2, then rook c5. So queen here, rook c5, Papa John's. So he played here, and now white has to face a reckoning. And the problem with moving his rook sideways, so he has rook c5 in the case of what I just said, then this pawn is hanging. But you got to do what you got to do. If you go here, now queen c7 attacks the rook, and there's no rook c5, so queen c2 is happening. The truth hurts. And black's probably winning here. So he had to bite the bullet and play rook c5. And what's funny about this is Jan didn't take this pawn, because now it's pinned, which the engine says is the best move, just take a pawn. But he played e5, which is also good, more aggressive. He wants to play e4, and there's pressure everywhere. And it stops rook takes h5. That's not a bad move. The engine wants to play e4, but Magnus played rook c2. And he played queen d5. Once again, the engine wants to take this and says black has a very big advantage. I mean, we got this passed pawn, and white has nothing. I actually don't know why he didn't play that. Maybe in the press conference, if they have one, which they probably won't. Yeah. Okay, so he played queen d5, stopping rook a2. Rook d2, saying, no, I'm going to play there. And now, with the move rook d2, he's defending this. And he wasn't c3 PO'd because it was r1 d2, not r2 d2.
Right, he could have played r2 d2.
Yeah.
Dang it.
Now here, we can't take this because knight takes and the rooks are defending each other. So in my opinion, e5 was probably Probably worse than bishop b4, probably. But queen d5 is certainly an error. Like, take the pawn. And black has good winning chances. Now the game should be a draw with, perfect play. e4 is another move that's very suspicious. The players had no time here. They're in time trouble trying to make the time control. This move's not good, but the reason is very difficult to see. After knight c5, forcing queen takes b4, white has an amazing move here that probably wins. Probably. And that move is not what Magnus played. Knight takes e4, rook c2. And the idea of rook c2 is very difficult to comprehend when you're in time trouble or when you're not. The idea is black plays random legal move, and we take this. And then if you go here, I do that, I take that, and that's probably winning. And this idea of knight takes a4 and rook c3, pretty good idea and impossible to stop. This is a very important pawn, and that's why Jan was drawing the game when he was drawing the game. Instead, he played knight takes e4 instantly because losing on time is bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, now it should be a draw because I keep this pawn. And they made time control in this position. And Magnus thought for 15 minutes and played rook c2. Always play bishop f8. He wants to play a3. Thank you, dead silly. Knight c5. And he wants to play a3. And he's like, I got that. I'm not going to lose. And as the game progressed, which seemed like it was just heading for a draw, in this position, black made a very serious, it's not a blunder or a mistake, but misunderstanding of the position. I think if black just moves his king around, it's a draw. The reason it's a draw is because the winning plan for white is to play knight c2 and take. However, after knight c2, we're actually not threatening to take, and I think that's the issue the players had with not understanding this position. So for example, if I go here, just random legal move, and you take, now I play bishop e5, and black is probably winning. Unless it's a draw.
Right, we can maybe get a fortress.
Yeah, I think this is a draw because you could play rook
happy,
f4.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're just losing all these pieces. Mm-hmm. It's not better for white. So the point is, if white can never do that, which seems correct, then the game's a draw. And the engine says all zeros. And here Nepo made a bad move. I see Maurice is there at the press conference with no players. Mm-hmm. Truth hurts. He played queen e4, which allows something that looks a little odd, but at least white can try to win. The queen is here, we can't do that. And he played rook takes a3. So now if we trade this, this is just white trying to win and black suffering. And I don't see how you hold on to this pawn. Rook goes to this here, the knight goes to here. Probably, I don't know, this might be a draw, but this is a lot of suffering. And so I think that was a very bad decision to play the move queen e4, totally unnecessary. And now Jan thought a while about which pawn to take. He took the pawn that you guys think is cooler, h4, because you guys like that. And this seems like a draw too, but white has good winning chances. And before it was a draw, I don't think white had any winning chances. All day, Magnus wants to trade this pawn for that pawn. Mm-hmm. That pawn doesn't matter. That pawn, that's a pawn. Okay. And the game continued in not the most exciting way. And in this position, white has good winning chances and played the move f3, which weakens his king position and his pawns and the 7th rank. And now the game should be a draw, and Fabi was furious.
They did show up, the players.
Right. Fabi was really mad about f3. Mm-hmm. Okay, now it should be a draw, and they both are getting in time trouble again. And I'll show you the moment when he made a bad move. Okay, it was this moment. In this position, we're defending this pawn from the side, and we're defending this, and everything's defended, and queen h1. So we don't want him to play rook e4 and then get his other rook active and so forth. Probably still a draw, but no reason to do that. So lots of moves he can make where, you can't play rook e4, like queen d3, for example, queen d5. You could also play queen d7, so then if rook e4, we could try to sneak in this way. But he played queen b3, and now white again has serious winning chances, although the engine just says it's a draw. But yeah, I thought this would be a draw for sure. Now he's threatening to win with queen e1 check, and Magnus is like, no, you're not. So it's hard for white to win, because if f3, f4, he opens his king, weakens the e-pawn, and if the knight tries to get into the game, we're opening up the 7th rank here, and there's going to be a lot of checks. And by a lot of checks, I mean a lot of checks. So he didn't do that. He tried to win the f-pawn with rook e5. You can never take the f-pawn because you lose your e-pawn, as you can see here. And somehow, like, Jan relaxed, and he played queen d5. Again, these moves don't lose. I just don't like them because he's taking the pressure off of e3. I don't know why you would do that. His queen's on b3. Okay. And he put his queen on h1, put it in h. And they repeated, always repeat. And this may be where he made the losing move, although he was drawing later, so maybe he was never losing. There's a lot of bishop moves here, and he played the one the engine hated the most. It doesn't like the move that he made, although I think I would have made that move. He played here, because I like keeping the bishop here.
Agreed.
But, you're going to get tempoed. So here, attacking the bishop and rook here. So he has to go there, and then this. You're skewering everything. And then here. And it's hard for black to move here. It's not easy.
Yeah.
The engine says queen c2 is the best move. It defends the bishop, pins the knight, and if you play rook c7, I have bishop takes e3 check, winning the rook. So he attacked the bishop. Bishop a7 again. Also, I think... oh, no, bishop a7 is forced. Right. Now, if you take this pawn... Well, he did take the pawn. He repeated, then he took the pawn. Right. Okay. Now here, black has two ideas. Queen d3 and queen e4. After queen e4, you can't protect this pawn. You can't... Rook here and rook here don't protect the pawn. I can take with the bishop. And rook b3, I take the rook. However, we play a Zwischenzug, rook g5 check, and then we play rook b3. And now white's back in business. Maybe still a draw, but better for white. So instead of queen e4, you play queen d3. And Magnus has a really nice tactic here. So the first nice tactic is for Jan. This rook to e5, this rook is overloaded. This rook to e5, this rook is overloaded. So after here, we still take. And if rook takes, we take this. And after rook here, we do the same thing. That's actually pretty cute. And then if here, we go here. But Magnus had his own trick up his own sleeve, which is, not fun. Rook takes f7 check. The only way to try to win. And we get this position, which is like 50% win, 50% draw. And Spencer thought he would win. And we'll see if he was right. I thought it would be a draw. And what ended up happening was they got to a table-based position by moving around forever doing nothing. Gaining time on the clock. And eventually, Magnus decided knight f3, that wasn't the way to win. We have to play knight e2 and stop all the checks and then try to play e4. So he did that. Took him a long time to do it.
Yeah, finally got there, though.
Right. And then he played knight e2. His knight defends his rook, and now he could play e4. The funny thing about that is white got everything he wanted. He stopped all the checks. He played e4. He's got two connected passed pawns. And after h4, and we trade, this is a table-based position because it's 7 pieces. And you would assume white has excellent winning chances, which is what the engine says, the strong engines. However, this is a table-based position. That means it's already been solved. It has 7 pieces are left, so we already know the answer. And the answer is draw. This is a drawn position because the table base knows every legal move and every position that can occur after this. Frankly, ridiculous. And obviously white's playing for a win because black doesn't have anything. And I'll show you the moment where he makes the losing move. Not that we understand it, but... This is a draw. Everything's a draw. Everybody's happy. When I say it's a draw with perfect play.
All right.
Yeah. And in this position, Queen A2 was suspicious because White wants to move his king up. So forcing him to move his king up is a weird move. And now, Black only has 2 moves that draw, not that I understand why. And that's Queen B1 and Queen C2. Why does it draw? Because the engine says so. Well, the engine says tablebase says so. Otherwise, White's winning.
Yeah.
And I would need a lot of super GMs to explain that to me. And the super GMs that are playing the game didn't understand it because he didn't do that. Right. So basically, looking at it from a table-based view has nothing to do with actual chess. That has to do with like math.
All right.
From a chess point of view, when the game's 7.5 hours long, it's very likely White's going to win, whether it's a draw or not. Because White's just winning, and Black has to figure out a way to draw. And you can't figure anything out because you got 3 minutes on your clock. Also, if you had 30 minutes, you couldn't figure it out. This, to me, if you asked me, guess the table-based evaluation, I would say White wins. That would be my guess. But somehow these moves draw. He didn't play those moves, and now he's losing, and he was always losing. There's only 2 moves that win here. King here and king here. He played one of them. And now Rook H5 doesn't win because you're hanging your pawn, but the other moves win. And a lot of moves win here. That's the best. Now if you take, knight check wins the queen. He played queen G6. And now there's 2 moves that win. One I understand, one I barely understand. Rook D5 wins. This pawn's not attacked because of knight here check. So after Rook D5, we're trying to play F5. We're trying to play Rook D7. And Rook F7 wins. That's what Magnus played. The reason it wins is because if you take the pawn, then White has a move that wins here, King G5. Now, if Black could play King G7, he would draw, but that's not allowed. And after King here, this is the only move that wins, and so forth. Mm-hmm. Yeah, King and pawn ending 101.
Yeah.
So Rook F. So Magnus won pretty handily with great accuracy once he was winning, and then this is just easy win because he's making 7 queens. This position, Jan resigned because if you don't check, I'm going to go E7 check, E8 check. God damn.
It's a good plan.
So you got to check, and then my king goes to G8, and then you don't check anymore.
Yep.
Yeah. You check a few times.
Yeah, it's just like it's so similar to the Navarra game where he won his rook knight and 2 pawns,
and then
pushed them all like
Papa
this.
John's.
Yeah. I'm sure he was thinking of that game.
Mm-hmm. You sure he wasn't thinking Arby's?
Probably that as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
So for some reason, this is the losing move, Queen E6, and for some reason these moves draw.
Nobody knows.
Right.
Nobody knows.
You know what's funny? The engine that is just thinking, it says Queen B1 and Queen C2 are by far the best moves.
Right, the engine somehow does know that those are the moves.
The engine evaluation is like funky, but it still says those are the best moves. The non-table based thing. That's weird.
Well, they're the exact same because they play Queen D1 next. It's Rook moves Queen D1.
Right. Then you can't play King G4.
Yeah.
If you play King H4, I play Queen E1. Yeah, so the idea is to stop the white king from going up like he did in the game. Although Queen here check sort of forced it up. So that was dumb. Right, so you can't move the knight because the rook is hanging. And the idea is if you play King G4 now, I check, and then I attack your knight forever.
That is true, Laz.
Yeah, here. Well, I take
absolutely
it then.
true.
Right. And so the engine plays Rook F6, and then Queen D1. You can't play King G4. And if you play King here, Queen E1.
Again, yeah.
Now, obviously, nobody can see this or understand
Right.
it.
I mean, it's still King G4, right?
Right. King G4.
Queen G1?
Queen D1.
Oh, okay.
King G5, Queen
Then
G1.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you just can't move. Yeah, you can't
Right.
do it.
Of course, if Black's queen isn't back here harassing everything, and he plays the way he actually did,
White
there's no harassing here. The queen's bad here, but the queen's good here. It's sort of like rook endings. Put your rook behind the pawns. Yeah, the queen's not good here. Queen's good here. Queen check. Queen pins the knight. Yeah, and now the knight got into the game, and there were some tactical tricks that probably weren't necessary, but they made the win faster. Yeah. This actually didn't happen after knight G7. He resigned.
Yeah, he resigned.
Because that's too good. Might even be 3 good.
Yeah, he'll lose because the pawn is unstoppable, the e-pawn. So
Yeah, if you don't win this way, as long as your king's out of checks, you can play f6.
Yeah.
The engine actually announces mate in 16, which is quicker than I thought it would be. I thought it would be like 20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, tough game. Too bad for Jan, but maybe he'll win the next game. Try to win it. Obviously.
They're having the press conference now. If you're watching this live, if you're watching on YouTube, they had the press conference a few hours ago. Now, my understanding is it's 12:44 in the morning in Dubai, and the players have to sit there for the press conference. They can't get to sleep. They think about the 134 move game, 136 move game.
Dang.
Yeah. Everybody's choking on their own rage.
Yeah.
That's chess for you. So if you want to win a game in the World Championship, you better be prepared for an 8-hour game for 136 moves. Otherwise, draw. Yeah, so that was like 4 games worth.
Still, I think these guys are as good as, Steinitz.
Yeah,
and
136 moves. That's like a whole tournament for Radjabov.
Oh, yeah.
That's like 9 games for him.
That's 9 draws, yeah.
Right, yeah. That's right.
Yeah, pretty much last. Yeah. Oh. Anyways, you going to raid someone or what?
No. Yeah, very good game. Good for the spectators, not good for Jan. That's the only person it wasn't good for.
Yeah. Well, his fans,
The most shocking thing about this game is he played f3 and he won. Terrible.
Right.
Terrible. Boo, boo. He can't get to sleep. I think the answer is I will not raid anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Slim pickings.
Yeah.
Could raid this one again.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, all right.
Since they showed up, yeah.
All right.
I can do it probably.
Yeah. And that person actually, what did they do? They
Subbed.
subbed. Yeah, that's the word. Yeah. All right. Thanks for watching, donating, all the other stuff that you do. And I guess we'll see you tomorrow at Ass in the Morning. After this exciting game, now I want to do live commentary. All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks for watching. Bye. See you tomorrow.